So I want to teach you about the craniosacral pumps a little bit. And the first practice in this, and we do quite a lot of practice around this, is a standing practice. So we're going to get this working. You can do it in your movement practice, in the morning or whenever you do movement practice. What am I talking about, craniosacral pumps, first of all? Well, it's cerebrospinal fluid is made in the vesicles in the brain, and it runs around the brain, but also comes up and down the spinal cord. And the cerebrospinal fluid is moved by breath. So inhalation and exhalation move the breath. Inhalation particularly, because that pumps all the fluids around the body, as we've talked about in other sessions. Now, if we want to really enable this craniosacral fluid and get an incredible level of well-being, and also enliven and energize the spinal nerve, the spinal cord, and the brain, then this is one of the ways we do this. So it's very, very simple indeed. What we're going to be doing here, you can rest your hands on your hips, you can rest your hands on the top of the knees here, and you're going to breathe in and out, moving the pelvis backwards and forwards. So you're going to get this feeling of breathing out, taking the pelvis backwards, and breathing in, bending your knees and pulling the pelvis forwards and up. Breathing out, taking the pelvis backwards, and breathing in, pulling the pelvis forwards and up as you straighten the legs. Now I'll do it from the side as well, so you can see it from the side, but it's an out breath, in breath. Out breath and in breath. Out breath, in breath. I'm holding the ground very firmly with an optimal foot foundation, which means the toes are spread and the four corners of the foot, the big toe pad, little toe pad, and both sides of the heel are really well earthed, grounded, holding on. So from that movement then I can come in here and breathe out and breathe in. I'll turn to the side to do that. So it looks like this. You can do it side to side as well, which is a really nice addition. And again, in the Nagas practice, we do movements like this, really getting the pelvic area in relationship to the sacroiliac joints and the sacral fluid moving, everything moving in here, and do it in conjunction with breath. Now then, what we're doing there was an in-breath forwards, an out-breath back. We can equally well do an out-breath forwards, in-breath back. And individual sides again. So looking at getting this sort of fluidity, this limber quality and fluid quality to the whole of the sacroiliac pelvic area, and really encouraging the relationship of the pelvic floor, because on the out breath the pelvic floor is going to lift here, or if the out breath go that way. Whichever way you do it, the pelvic floor is going to lift, and we're going to get that movement with the breath and the pumping of the pelvic floor, and the sacral area here, because the pelvic floor and the sacral area are working together to enable this lift up through the spine. Now, as we're doing this, we need to keep the back of the neck long. So the back of the neck is going to stay long here, very fluid, very serpentine. So the whole feeling on the in-breath and the out-breath, even though we're moving the spine, is one of the gentle elongation through this point on the back of the head. So if you come to the right of the crown and then come back a couple of inches, you'll feel just where the cranium sort of starts to slide backwards into the ski slope of the back of the head. Around about that point there, we're going to be getting this lift up through here, keeping the neck long and keeping the back of the neck relaxed as well. So we keep this cranial area relaxed and open as well. So the suboccipitals, the muscles that sit at the back here, are long and released. So the whole movement is engaging the spine from the pelvis and the reverse the other way around. So we've got a very strong and beautiful way of engaging. Now, of course, you can get arousal energy, blood flowing to the genitals and arousal energy, and you can use the practice in that way as well. You can use that energy to lift it up and through the spine, to energize your life, and to create good things in your life as well. But don't be scared of that energy. I'm just saying that because I don't want you to be scared of it. If you get that happening, it's okay. It's really okay. And if it doesn't happen, it's also really okay. It's not a requirement of this practice that that happens. What we're simply doing here is engaging the cranial up here and the sacral parts of the body, linking that through the spine with the breath, and really engaging this fluidity and openness and dynamic relationship between the sacral area and the cranial area, so we can live a powerful and beautiful life. So that's the first part of this practice. So the second part of the craniosacral pump can be done in sitting. Now, actually, these feet work really well to facilitate the practice if you can sit in this position. I'll show you an alternative in a minute. So what we're going to be doing here is very simply moving the pelvis like this, like we're doing in standing. Yeah? So we're keeping the spine long, lifting this back part of the head up towards the heavens, yeah? Keeping the chin slightly dropped, and this fluid, serpentine quality in the whole spine. Yeah? So I can use the whole of the pelvic floor as well in this movement. So I'm pumping the pelvic floor from the front through to the back as I'm rolling onto the back of the sit bones. So rolling onto the front of the sit bones, rolling onto the back of the sit bones, and getting this movement of the pelvic floor with the breath. And coming in, just rocking at the end of that movement with the breath hold. So we can play with the same dynamic we're doing in standing, in sitting. Now, this position is not accessible to everybody, so an alternative would be here. And we've looked at safety in sitting to a degree. So this position here is really good. Now, if you find that your knees are one off the floor and the other one down on the ground, that's not a great place to be, because that means the psoas on this side is tight and this knee is at risk. So on both knees on the floor. The second thing is, if your knees are higher than the iliac crest here, your psoas is going to be switched on, the big muscle that runs from the inner thighs up through and joins and weaves into the diaphragm. That's not going to be great for a breath practice. So sit up on some blocks or some cushions or something underneath your bum to lift you up. Let the knees drop down below these pelvic wings here, up on the top here, yeah, and supported. So from there, we can do the breath practice. As I'm working, the pelvic floor is squeezing in and up, the sit bones are coming in, and that energization is pumping up through the spine, through fluid, long, serpentine quality of the spine, relaxed and open suboccipitals here, through towards the crown of the head, working really beautifully through the spine. And of course, I'm doing an out-breath inflection, going back, curling back the spine gently, because that feels natural. You'll find the same. But we can also turn that around, just to see what happens, if nothing else. So it's harder to do, but so play with it. Now, I like going with what feels natural in this sense, in this instance. So for me, very much it's going to be an out breath back. And if you see the dynamism here in my legs as well, you can see how the roll of my pelvis is really engaging the foundation through the legs into the floor, and that's squeezing and energizing up through the whole spine from the pelvic floor. So very profound and very powerful practice. So this is another element of the craniosacral pump we can add in is simply breath holding. Now, if you've got your feet up on the top of the thighs in Padmasana, great. But if you haven't, you can use your hands like this. So you can wrap the thumbs in and wrap the fingers around like this and press those on the top of the thighs here. Try it like this, okay? So in sitting with the hands pressing down right on the tops of the thighs, some good pressure down there. And what we can also do to add another level to the practice is simply come into a breath hold at the end of it. So you can breathe out and breathe in, hold the breath gently and just press down and pulse the pelvic floor. See my legs moving a little bit. Holding my breath in. So I'm squeezing the tummy and holding that breath hold in. So squeezing and holding that breath hold. Just pumping through the spine. And release. And breathe out. And breathe in, relax. So you've got a lot of different options there with the craniosacral pumping, but I highly recommend making it part of your daily practice. It's a profound and beautiful practice.